2, 1. Uh-oh. Somebody's calling on the call. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Cross and the Crescent discussion group again, and on Global Patriot Radio, on Blog Talk Radio. We are called the Real Faith Dialogue. Welcome to the show. I got like 50 bells going off on my computer right now, and I'm not exactly sure why that is, but that's okay. And I see we were finally joined by the radical moderate after he just sent me. Now this is what Rad does, and I don't know if he's just doing it to see if he can get my blood pressure going. But 20 minutes before we're going live, Rad sends me now he just jumped out. He sends me an instant message, or I don't know, maybe it was a Skype message saying, well, I'm not going to be able to come to the show today and present what we were going, and I told you I was going to present. So I'm sitting there desperately scrambling to get something together for this show, but I see that he is here. Rad, can you come up on mic? Or are you in a position where you are unable to come up on mic? Because he said he was going to be in the car and traveling, I think. If he can't, that's fine. He's here for the show, and I'm glad to see everybody else showing up here in chat. Today, we're going to be talking about the issue of apostasy in Islam. Evidently last week on the call-in and get scolded by Kenny show, this was an issue. They were talking about apostasy and how ignorant we are on this show, especially with the exception of Isa. Isa did get a good shout out this morning. What time was this email? This email was around 8 o'clock, I guess. Did you get this email from the Imam this morning,
Yes,
Isa?
sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, he seems to be the only person on the Cross and the Crescent panel capable of being decent and reasonable. And Eric, I don't know if he's is that saying that I'm decent and reasonable too?
Oh, Eric and Isa, how many times have like say me and you agreed and Eric and you agreed and things of what nature of how we speak about Islam and things to that nature. So if in fact Kenny believes that Isa is the more intelligent one, which, man, the guy's got brains coming out of everywhere in his body. He's definitely more intelligent than me, and I'll say that straight out. But anyway, if he's saying that Isa is the only credible one on the show, and he's agreeing with what we say, then Kenny must be agreeing with it too. Isn't that how you see it, Isa?
I think it's definitely there's the things that we're talking about. There are definitely a lot of issues that we need to engage that I think are really important. And I think the difficulty is on that platform is he's an imam, he's a da'i. A da'i is a person who calls people to Islam. So these types of difficult issues are hard to talk about. And yeah, I think these are things that we need to talk about, just like we've said on the show before, we've talked about, sati that used to be practiced in Bengal and in Nepal and South Asia was this terrible act where if a man dies, the woman would be thrown into the funeral pyre. So there's a lot of issues that we need to talk about, like these things about the Had. We have to engage that. And mostly I think what we discuss here on this platform are these really intense issues that we need to kind of engage, and hopefully, God willing, certain element will be dismantled. Things like punishing people who are ex-Muslims. These are problems. Things like people who draw cartoons. These types of things you can talk, in free speech, we can talk about whatever we want to talk about, right? Like, as long as you don't incite violence, we can talk about these things. But we have to create the space where it's kind of like we're going to engage hard issues. That's what the dialogue's about. That's what this panel's about, if I'm correct. And that's kind of where I come from in this particular situation. So I definitely agree. We need to hopefully overcome a lot of these issues of our time.
Well, it appears that he doesn't want to. The only thing as far as I can see, the only thing he wants to do is get me fired from a job that I retired from already. Listen to the email. Listen what he says here. I will challenge Eric Smith to a live debate within the next month on this subject. A debate right in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week, since he is retired. He put it in parentheses. Figure the odds of that happening. And then I guess this is, he wants me to prove that I've retired. He can go jump in a pond. Okay, so this email includes all kinds of reasons for apostasy. And, I was reading through this today, and a lot of it I actually agree with. And I think that he's right on this. But then he starts getting off into the Western version of Islam quite quickly, and we'll get to that here in a couple minutes. But the one thing that I did want to clear up, and this was brought up last week, was the issue of blasphemy. And he stated that it is not against the Sharia, and I might be oops, let me put you back here, Red. Sorry, I might be quoting him, and if I am, it's not intentional. But the bottom line is that he was saying that it's not against the law to blaspheme. There's not a law against blaspheming Muhammad. Now, how many of you would disagree with that, and why? Is there anybody here? Doggone it, there's something wrong with my printer, and I don't know what it is. I'm going to have to figure that out. Can any of you clear that up for me? Anybody want to do that?
I didn't even hear you. What'd you say? I'll clear it up for you.
Yeah, I want to know. Okay, is it against Islamic law to blaspheme Muhammad?
Yes.
Well, he says it's not.
And now the reason why I'm going to say this is because we have the authentic hadith of the blind man that killed his slave girl when she was pregnant with his child because she was disparaging Muhammad. So when he was brought towards Muhammad, he had told Muhammad everything that had happened, and Muhammad declared her blood halal.
Muhammad did what? What was the last thing he did? I didn't hear that last part you said, Chris. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so Muhammad declared the slave woman's blood that was killed halal.
Mm-hmm. So criticizing him, would you say that criticizing him is the same as blaspheming him? Because I know how here's where we're going to do is we're going to get lost in equivocation on this definition. So I completely agree. And there's all kinds of examples within the hadith itself, and not only within the hadith itself, within the 21st century itself, where we see people hatun tash. That's considered reviling the prophet by having that cartoon printed on her T-shirt. So what did that guy want to do? He wanted to kill her. What about the people who worked at the newspaper that printed those cartoons? That didn't end very well for them. Killed, 12, 15 of them? So to say that it is not against the law to blaspheme Muhammad is basically a statement in abject ignorance. And I'm going to show you where in the Reliance of the Traveler. And oh, by the way, just let his buddy know, Charles, what's his name? Doyle. Charles Doyle. He was on the show, and when this was brought up about Reliance of the Traveler, Charles thought that Reliance of the Traveler was a collection of hadiths. And Kenny said he never read it before. Now, if you're an imam, let's just pretend here. If you're an imam and you've never opened Reliance of the Traveler before, or say that you've never opened up and read the Reliance of the Traveler before, you're doing one of two things. Number one, you're either lying, or what you're doing is you are we would call it malpractice. If you're an imam and you are trying to find the jurisprudence justification for laws of the Sharia that he claims is here, oh, by the way, and you don't know anything about this, you're either being dishonest or you're in malpractice. Now, I want to show my screen. Somebody want to have something to say?
He reads a book of Karen Armstrong. That's it.
Yeah, that's the only thing he wants to cite is Karen Armstrong. That's right, John.
That's Kenny Islam for you. That's Kenny Islam. Karen Armstrong. Yeah. You guys hear me okay?
Exactly. Yeah, we can hear you, Rad. Are you on the way to someplace? You don't want to talk about it, or?
Yeah, I gotta go someplace. So
no, that's okay. That's all right. All right. Yeah,
but I figured I'd join the show.
I appreciate that.
One thing I wanted to add to that too is these are important. See, because one thing that I think we should establish here, what we're talking about, is majority of Muslims are Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, or Sunni Muslims. So Sunni Muslims believe in all these texts. They believe in Umdat Salek. They believe in Riyad al-Salihin. They believe in the Hadith. They believe in all these corpuses of the Sunni tradition, the Maghazi, the Tafasir. All of these are all part of the Sunni collection. And most Muslims in the world, about 80 to 90, 80, I would say, just to give a low ball, it's like 80% of Muslims in the world are a part of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. So these are things that need to be wrestled with. Like, we have to engage these types of things, I think, which is important. And it's difficult, this particular thing, because it's more than just this. There's a lot of poets. There's two poet girls, according to these texts, that basically were sentenced to death too for making poetry. And I think this is a problem. And I think in the Sunni Muslim community, these are things that need to be engaged. They need to be engaged. And calling it out is not necessarily a bad thing to say, look, these things exist here. Take a look at it. What do you think about this? How do you reconcile your faith with these things? I think it's important.
Right. Okay. So what I wanted to do is I just wanted to show what the jurisprudence manual for the Sharia says. Now, this manual is approved by 4 of the main schools of Sunni Islam. It has the approval of the most authoritative body in Islam, Al-Azhar University. And in this book, it talks about apostasy. What is apostasy? Because apostasy is unbelief. It's leaving Islam. And then we're going to be discussing this here in just a little bit. But I want you to see how it includes reviling. Here's acts that entail leaving Islam. And you have several of them here. But look at right here. It says to revile Allah is apostasy. To blaspheme Allah is considered apostasy. But it doesn't stop there, though, now does it? It says, or his messenger. Not and, or his messenger. So if you blaspheme, if you revile Muhammad, that is against the Sharia. So don't get on a show anywhere ever again and try to make the argument that, well, it's blasphemy. How can you blaspheme a human? I mean, that was his condescending, snarky little remark. What was it? I don't know if it was Danny or who had made that. Maybe it was Rad.
That was me. That was me.
Yeah. Okay. What type of? I mean, what arrogance? Say, well, how can you tell me about?
Well,
this?
actually,
we're reading your sources, dude. Go ahead, Rad.
Well, actually, Kenny was right. Kenny was right to point that out. That if you blaspheme, if you consider reviling Muhammad blasphemy, okay, then that would mean Muhammad is deity. Yes, I agree with that. Okay, the problem is that the Muslims don't agree with that. The Muslims don't consider it blasphemy because they don't understand what blasphemy is. You know what I mean? They have no concept with this. But that is well established. I mean, you can go to the blasphemy laws in Pakistan that are being practiced right now. Okay?
Well,
and it doesn't have to entitle. Yeah. Okay? So yeah. But anyway, continue on because I want to get to the jihad thing because that's really funny, dude.
Hey, Eric.
Okay.
Do you have the 4 schools of thought and what they actually say, or do you want me to read them out for you?
Go ahead.
All right. So going with according to the school of Malik, which is written in the book of Muwatta, from Ibn Aslam, Malik has reported that the apostle of God declared whoever changes his religion should be executed. Malik said about this tradition, as far as we can understand, this command of the prophet means that the person who leaves Islam to follow another way but conceals his kufar and continues to manifest Islamic belief and pattern, others like should be executed after his guilt has been established. He should not be asked to repent, because the repentance of such persons cannot be trusted, but the person who has left Islam and publicly chooses to follow another way should be requested to repent. If he repents, good. Otherwise, he should be executed. According to the Hanbali school, as it explains in the well-authenticated book Al-Mughni, in the opinion of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, any adult and rational man or woman who renounces Islam and chooses kufar should be given a 3-day period to repent. The person who does not repent should be executed. This is also the opinion of Hassan Basari, Zuhri, Ibrahim. There's a whole bunch of lists here. I'm not going to go down them all. And then here, Imam Tahawi has provided an interpretation of the Hanafi school in his book as follows. And it says basically the same thing as what Malik said, that if he's hiding his kufar, then they should be executed immediately because they can't be trusted. But if a Muslim leaves for another religion, he's allowed 3 days to repent. If he does, he's set free. If he doesn't, he dies. Now, going into the Shafi, if a Muslim becomes an apostate, Allah forbid, the Imam should grant him 3 days grace. He is not to be killed before this period expires, for the apostasy of a Muslim from his own faith often results from his confusion. The Maliki again, if he repents after 3 days, he is to be released. If he does not, he is to be killed on the 3rd day at sunset. So I think we went to the Hanbali. This is the Hanafi. If he accepts Islam thereafter, it is good. If not, he is to be killed. All schools of thought in Islam dictate that you give a 3-day grace period. If the person repents, he is allowed to go free. If he does not repent, he is to die that day.
Okay. Does that include being tried in a court of law?
I believe that in these situations, it could only be an Islamic court by the Imam.
Well,
and I think that's why it says here by the Imam.
Well, his email is saying it's got to be tried in a court of law. Okay, fine. His email says it's got to be given 3 days. Okay, that's fine. We agree with that. But it doesn't say, like he was saying on his show, that it has to be at a time of war, and it has to be some form of treason, and that was just completely absurd. And then he says, "Oh well, you got to listen to these scholars," and Shabir Ali is one of the scholars, and and plus, okay, I just want to circle back to what we were talking about versus apostasy versus blasphemy. The reason why I pointed that part out in Reliance of the Traveler is because that is part of the apostasy clause, and the punishment for apostasy is death. Now, when we come back to that apostasy clause, let me circle back to that. Oh my gosh, I'm starting to sound like that press secretary. When we come back to that, for revilement, that is one of the considerations, or that's one of the reasons too, that's one of the things that is considered apostasy, revilement, blaspheming Muhammad. John Isaac,
I would like to add something. According to Islam, if someone left Islam and became apostate, but this is not, it's between him and himself, doesn't tell anyone else, then no problem, no punishment will happen. But if he go outside himself, go to his family and say that I left Islam because 1, 2, 3, 4, then he made it's as he made a war against Allah and his prophet. Then he should be executed. This is what Kenny Boomer said. He said, if you left Islam without telling anyone, no one will know, and you will not be killed. But if you tell anyone, then you made a war against Allah and His Prophet. Then you should be
according to him. Okay, so according to him, if you just keep your mouth shut about it, then you're okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. This is what he said. This is what he said, and this is the true Islam. This is the true Islam.
Yeah. How would you know if somebody left it? I mean, that's.
Yeah, he should say. We have many cases like that in Egypt. We have someone, a very known YouTuber, whose name Sharif Gaber. He lives in Suez, about 100 kilometers from the capital, Cairo. He left Islam, and he was in the university, and he said that in the school that I left Islam, they put him in jail for 3 years, and he left Egypt running from killing.
Okay, so let me ask you this, John. No, hold on, Lisa. You can bring up. I'll let you talk just a second. I want to ask John something real quick. Okay, John, in Egypt, your home country, and Steve's here too.
Hey.
Is it punishable? Will somebody kill you? Can you be put in jail for blaspheming Muhammad?
Yes, it's by law. If you say the bad words about Muhammad, you will go to jail at least 3 years. From 3 to 5 depends on. Even you are not a Muslim, if you are Christian or any other religion.
Oh, okay. Whoa, hey, whoa. So if this kafir goes to Egypt and I want to go on a tour,
God.
Okay, hold on, I want to go see the pyramids. The Queen and I are going to go see the pyramids.
You can go, but you can't say any word about Islam. No, don't say any word.
Why not?
Even if you made a like on Facebook, just like on someone criticizing Islam, it is punishable. You have at least 3 years in the jail in Egypt.
So I could go to jail for 3 years in Egypt if I said something about Muhammad,
Yes.
something bad about Muhammad.
Yes, but we in Egypt, Sharia is not applied fully, not full application. I mean, in Egypt, someone can leave Islam without killing. There is no law of applying apostasy law in Egypt.
Well, I got it right here too. I was gonna just pop that up on the screen. Chris, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, I was gonna say, Eric, don't go to an Islamic area, only because you're on the internet. You have videos already.
Yeah.
And as soon as you go into that country, they can take you for what you've said prior, and they will. I've actually had remember that guy debated named Jihadist on Discord, some kid.
Yeah, I remember.
He said that if I ever go to Saudi Arabia, or if he ever sees something on my Facebook where I'm in Saudi Arabia, he's going to rat me out.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, because we were thinking. I'm not going to say where else we were thinking about going. Now, I mean, my goodness, I wanted to go to Egypt. I wanted to go up and they had these nice tours. They got these pictures of you can go up and down the Nile, and it just looks so pleasant. But now that John says this, I'm thinking,
if someone in Egypt knows you, then don't go.
Well, I'm not a very popular fella, so I'll roll that dice when the time comes. So if somebody sees, okay, now here's the thing: if somebody sees Chris Claus hosting the show, I'm just saying the kafir might be out of country. So,
and if the kafir gets caught in Egypt, there are going to be a few other Christians going there to get you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Good. Yeah, because we were thinking maybe if we go like in March or something, that would be maybe we were talking maybe February. All right, Issa, go ahead.
I wanted to ask a question to John too. So I'm actually partially Egyptian myself, so I've been watching Egyptian TV, and I saw some stuff that really kind of horrified me. Honestly, it was, I call him like car salesman kind of guy, but this guy had a TV show, and I saw a couple TV shows like this. But there was a person who came on the show who was basically, he didn't fully admit it, but it seemed like he appeared to be an atheist. He believed in science. He didn't really believe in religion. That was his point of view. So this talk show host invites him onto the show, and then basically they ask him, so what do you think about Allah? What do you think about the Rasul? Like he was asking these questions. And then basically what happened was this man, they basically berated this man completely, and then they kicked him off the show. They literally.
This sounds like consider this TV. You weren't watching that. This was an Egyptian show. Is that what you're?
That's what I saw, and I was shocked. My Arabic's not great, but that's what I saw, and I understood it. And I was like, "Oh my god!" And I saw another woman. She was wearing a niqab because she had to hide herself, and she's like, "Well," she didn't even say I'm against Islam completely. She just said like, "Yeah, I don't think the Prophet of Islam is that great of a person. I think he's just a person of his time." You know, some Muslims take this point of view too, where they're like, "He's a man of his time. He was good then. He's not really good now." And then she came on this other person. She came on this woman's show, and basically. She's wearing a niqab. The other woman has like her hair is all dyed and she has her hair out, which is funny, I thought. And this other woman was acting as like the great, authority of Islam. She's the great authority of Islam. And she went and critiqued this. She was critiquing this woman who said she didn't really believe in this. And then she basically kind of kicked her off her show. And I was just like, what's going on here? You're inviting, what are you doing? Like, you're not even allowing these people to have their point of view. And instead you're saying, because it almost felt like 1984 to me. I felt like a 1984 vibe, by George Orwell.
Sure.
And Blair. I was like, oh my gosh. It's like we have the Ministry of Truth and like double truth. And it's like, I can't say what I really feel. And if I say the wrong thing, these people are going, they trick me to get on their show and then they'll destroy me. And then, I could get in trouble and go to jail. And I'm just like, this is scary and disturbing. And I wanted to ask John, is that my reflection from, because I'm here in America. I have never been to Egypt, even though my ancestry is from Egypt. Is that true? Is my assessment correct, or is that false?
Yeah, true. And they do that because they'd like to be popular. I mean, the interviewer in the TV would like to be popular. He kicked out the atheist from the show because he loves Islam, because he loves Muhammad and Allah. This makes him popular, and a lot of people will support this guy, this interviewer. And I would like to tell, for this guy, one of them, because this case happened many times that he was kicked out from the interviews. Happens many times for many atheists in Egypt. One of them is married to a wife in Tunisia. And he tried to travel to Tunisia to meet his wife and his son. The authorities in the airport refused him to leave. Refused. He bought the ticket, but they didn't allow him to go to the plane to travel. What did he do? Because there is nothing. They know him from the TV. He is atheist. He said that Muhammad is not a prophet. There is no any case against him in the court or something, but the authorities in the airport, no, we will not let you go out from Egypt because you are a troublemaker, you are atheist, you may go outside and do a lot of troubles to Muslims, you will not travel. Then they kept him in Egypt. What did he do to see his wife? He announced in the YouTube that he returned back to Islam. He became another Muslim, returned back, revert to Islam. Okay, and as soon as he traveled outside Egypt, he made another announcement. I am not a Muslim. I just made that. That's true. Right. That's true. I can give you the link of his YouTube to see his videos, and this is looks how hypocrite Islam is. It's just about hypocrisy, about the number, about the shape from outside, but inside the heart, they don't care. This is the point.
Well, it's insane. I mean, and what's crazy is that it can be scary. Also, is the amount of exposure that you get on social media. You have to be so careful, and it's nuts. Where you have to be so careful about what you say on social media, or these kind of things that you're describing can happen. I wanted to ask Steve. Steve's here. I don't know if he's taking a nap on his couch right now, because he was laying down when he first came on the show, which is okay. Now, is this something that would happen in the Gaza Strip too, if somebody reviled Muhammad?
Oh yeah.
Or you don't
right now, can you hear me?
We can hear you just fine. Sure, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you, Steve.
the Gaza Strip is under the control of Hamas, which is an Islamic, and they are more political than they are religious, and everybody knows it. But when there's an opportunity to do something like this, because you will win the favor of everybody, if you take a person like this and say no one insults the Prophet Muhammad, and you disgrace them, and you say, even kill them, and then you also have. I was reading in the Israeli newspaper this week, and I knew about this when I lived there too. They were there when I lived there. They were just called Salafis back then. But there's ISIS in the Gaza Strip. Right. And this is a danger. Like for an ex-Muslim, you never know. It may not be the government that comes after you. It'll usually not be the government. It'll usually be the relatives, who come after you for something like this. They'll deceive you, say, oh, we love you so much and we can't, Now, my family did that too, but they didn't deceive me. They said, we love you so much, and they did love me, and they didn't kill me. But a lot of times, this is a common story.
Well, we've heard so many stories where, people have apostatized from Islam, and the family is like, oh, just come back. We're not going to, because you're ostracized from your family if you apostatize from Islam. And they say, oh, no, come back. And then when they get back, they kill them. Yeah. I don't know how many stories I've read like that.
They kill them, or they'll take them to the mosque, and that, they'll just take them in the mosque and then force, it was just like a kind of a torment where they'll just keep on, putting Quran and Hadith and Quran, Hadith. And, I had a friend, I think I told you about it, that he was a Christian. He was he was a Muslim. He got saved while I was there. And then he wrote to me a couple of years ago, and he said, listen, they took me to the mosque. They beat me up so bad that I denied Christ. He said, I only did it because I was beat up, and I wanted to stop them. And he said, is there forgiveness for me? And one thing that I what's his name? The guy that does Martyrs, the Call for the Martyrs, or whatever that show, Voice of the Martyrs.
Voice of Martyrs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He said, sometimes when people are being tortured, that under the duress of torture, sometimes people will, say the wrong thing,
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And so, I said to him, you just repent and you come back to the Lord Jesus. And he says, if we confess our sins, he's faithful and just to forgive us, so.
Right. Yeah. And
I just want to add to something. I keep getting bounced out, but I just want to add to something. If you already covered this, let me know. Eric, I sent you an email, right, with some screenshots and a video and stuff. Okay. Mm-hmm. You don't have to play a video if you don't want, but there's some screenshots in there. One of them is from, I think it's the first one or the second one, the screenshot. It's from the book I've been reading, Crime and Punishment in the Islamic, Crime and Punishment in Islam, in Theory and Practice. That's the title of it. If you pull that up, I don't know if you can read it there, okay? But it gives an actual case, an actual fatwa, okay? A dude, and actually gives a date and everything in the fatwa. This was in Egypt in 1836, I believe. If you want to read it, go ahead, because I can't read it. Yeah. Go ahead and read it.
I can read it. All right. It says here, those who were executed for declaring their apostasy were mainly Christians who had converted to Islam and made a public show of renouncing it, as in the case of 2 Coptic Christians in 1383 and a whole group in 1379. In the latter case, they were given numerous chances to recant their apostasy before being punished. Later in the Ottoman Empire, a Muslim who had converted to Christianity and became a monk was brought to the court to repent before a judge. When the judge offered the man coffee, presumably Turkish, he threw it in the judge's face and began cursing Islam. The judge decided the man was insane. Only after he publicly insulted Islam 3 more times was the man executed.
Okay, so you read the wrong one, but that's okay. Let's discuss that real quick. Okay, no, It's the next one down. It's actually next one down. But let's discuss that one really quickly.
Okay. All right.
No. Notice. That's actually from the article by Jonathan Brown that Kenny selectively. That Kenny selectively quoted from. As a matter of fact, that paragraph is the paragraph right above from what he quoted from. Sure. Now, remind you, at this point in time, Kenny is still arguing. We can play the video clip if you want, where I actually cut that out, where he says, killing apostates, only if they did an act of treason. He says if a Muslim leaves the Islam or leaves the Muslims or forsakes them, whatever he says, and goes and joins the enemy and gives them information that would be detrimental or harmful to Muslims, okay, i.e. spying and whatnot, then yes, he should be killed, but only if there are 3 witnesses, right?
Okay, so
what was the act of?
Do you want me to play this, or do you want to just?
Oh yeah, go ahead and play that. Go ahead and play it.
It's 11 minutes long.
I'll tell you when to stop. It's not long. Go ahead. I'll tell you when to stop.
Well, hold on. I got to reshare because I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't. What do you call it? I did not put the sound thing.
Do the audio thing.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and do that. Share audio, share screen, bada bing, bada boom. And let me mute myself. Here we go.
Do I think that people should be killed for that? Obviously, such a question
under Sharia law.
Yeah, under Sharia law. I'm going to get to it. But such a question, when presented in this way, it's obvious that you find it to be a problem. Okay? I don't think it to be a problem when it's.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, it's a problem. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just going to play the audio. I'm not going to have somebody's
okay. Go ahead.
Copyright crap. Hold on.
Right.
You think it's a problem?
Law is implemented. So it's Sharia. It's not Sharia law because that would be law. It's Sharia. So if Sharia is followed properly and the Muslims are in a state of war in particular, they're in a state of war. So an individual, let's say an individual who's left the ranks of the Muslims while the Muslims are in a war situation with another opposing party, obviously, and that individual leaves the ranks of the Muslims and he goes to the enemy and he reveals information to the enemy that would place one Muslim or the whole body of Muslims in danger. If he revealed any secrets to the enemy.
All right, so yeah, we can stop it right there. We can stop right there. But I can hear Steve going, liar. Yeah, exactly. So notice.
I thought I heard somebody talking. I couldn't play up.
I thought it was me. Because I'm actually shouting liar, and I'm like, is my mic mute? Anyway, okay. So notice that's his position, and that's the position he argued with me back and forth in email. Okay, basically, apostasy on its own, being a public apostasy on its own, does not mean you get killed. Only if you go and commit acts of treason and only in a time of war, etc., right? Well, then he goes to that article of A.C. Brown, and he reads from it. And I got video of that where I cut out, different clips and shortened it, where we can go over that if we have time, but we don't have to. But he goes over the argument where A.C. Brown is arguing, saying, no, it is not, on the private level. In other words, if you leave Islam and just keep your mouth shut and don't tell anybody or say anything, we don't care about that, right? Okay, it's on the public level, and it, because it would upset the social order of things. Well, Kenny interpreted that to mean, see, it would go to warfare, and he actually quotes some scholars where it says, to prevent warfare. Well, why would it prevent warfare by killing an apostate, right? Okay, because the threat is, if there's one apostate, there could be 2, there could be 3. As a matter of fact, A.C. Brown actually gives an example of this happening. When the Muslim armies came and they conquered some town in Iraq, northern Iraq, the whole town, there were Zoroastrians, they converted to Islam. But as soon as the Muslim army left, they're like, screw that, we're leaving. We're no longer Muslims. That caused the Muslim army to have to keep coming back. You know what I mean? To enforce the Islam. Okay, so yeah, that would upset the social order thing. But notice, in the quotes, okay, that you read first before we got to play the audio, notice in both cases, okay, or 3 cases, okay, It was just a mere act of public apostasy. Okay, there was no spying. There was no, he's giving secrets to Crusaders that they're going to join the Crusaders. No, they're just saying we deny Islam and we're Christians, and you're not going to change our mind on it, right? Now, there's the one occasion of the monk where he threw the coffee in the guy's face. That could be considered assault, I would say, right? Hot coffee in someone's face would be considered assault. But notice that act actually saves the dude's life at first, because the Imam's like, this dude's nuts throwing coffee at me. You know what I mean? And it wasn't until he kept cursing Islam 3 more times that he was finally executed. But wait, can you share your screen again? Because I want to touch on the other thing, because this is actually really important. The next one down. Scroll down.
Okay.
Here we go. So read that for me, will you? Read the actually about the 4th sentence in the first 4th sentence from the bottom in the first paragraph. Let me see where it says. It says, killing an apostate, therefore, it is not homicide.
Right. Killing an apostate, therefore, is not homicide and will not entail retaliation or liability for blood money, for only a discretionary punishment for obstructing the proper procedure to be followed. This is explained in the following fatwa issued by Egyptian Grand Mufti in 1861. Do you want me to keep reading?
Yeah, keep reading.
Okay, a Muslim on trial for having intentionally killed a Christian merchant pleaded that he had acted with just cause because the Christian had once converted to Islam and then returned to his old faith. Therefore, he was an apostate whose life is not protected by law. The Mufti ruled that if the defendant could prove his plea, he could not be sentenced to retaliation or to the payment of blood money, but would only be liable for disciplinary punishment for not having given the apostate an opportunity to reconvert to Islam.
Yeah, so much for we don't take it into our own hands. So much for we don't. It has to be in front of an Islamic judge. No, if this dude could prove that the Christian was an apostate from Islam, he would only be punished for not giving the customer 3 days to repent. Not for killing him. No, that was hollow from Allah.
Yeah,
okay?
Look what his email says. His email, let me just put this back up here. His email says, vigilante justice against a person is not allowed. Only government officials. What a crock of crap.
Baloney.
Right. Let me find that.
Well, no, mind
right
you,
here,
that is actual case law. That is actual case law. What I just quoted, that actually really happened in Egypt in 1840 something.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly, Rad. What I've done is I've up on the screen now. I have Reliance to the Traveler. This is again on page 596. It says there's no indemnity for killing an apostate or any expiation, since it is killing someone who deserves to die. So you cannot be punished. I mean, this is just absolutely insane. He says vigilante justice against a person is not allowed. Okay, dude. I mean, if you were going to, be this self-appointed imam, then you're going to have to start making you're going to have to be consistent with what your own sources say. And instead of condescending to people like Rad, well, I know more than you about Islam. How dare you tell me? Shut your pie hole. You either start reading or go get a different job. And don't come on up on some type of whatever that is called that he does.
Hey, Eric.
I mean, it's absolutely insane what he's doing here. He's condescending to you, telling you don't know what you're talking about. When you cite his own sources, we can come in here and cite their own sources, but we're the ones that don't know anything about Islam. Really?
Hey, Eric.
Go ahead, Red.
Can you hear me, Eric?
I can hear you.
It's Hussein.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I just want to say that the thing that Kenny was saying there. This is the new CNN line. This is the Joe Biden line, which is you equate apostasy from Islam to being a traitor against a country. This is what they keep on doing, that when you apostatize from Islam, or you say, I'm not a Muslim, I'm a Christian now, it's the same CNN base, or the people who watch CNN. And I know I'm being a real jerk here, but there is a group that and to tell them that all that Islam is saying, it's the same thing that America does to traitors. It's what America did to the people who sold the atom bomb secrets to Russia. They execute. You get executed when you betray your country. And so they're trying. It's because of the death penalty element that they're trying to equate these two. And Kenny is just saying exactly the new line on CNN, and So anyway, and then there's one other thing. And
go
ahead. And there's one other thing about when.
Go ahead, Steve.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
When the Muslim Brotherhood took over Egypt, I remember the president's name was Morsi. Morsi was the guy who was the president during the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt.
Stephen Morsi, am I right?
Yes. And he said exactly those words. He says, "Oh, yes, we believe in freedom of religion. And then you can, if you want to become a Christian, that's okay. Just shut up and don't tell nobody." That's exactly what he said. And so this is all the same CNN garbage that they've been saying forever, man.
And
but if they do find out, but if they do find out, even if you keep it secret, and they do find out, let's say they follow you, and they your family, whatever, follows you or finds a Bible in your house or crucifix that you're hiding, okay? If you're hiding, if you're going to mosque regularly for the prayers, but still meeting in secret, with Christians or reading the Bible, and you get found out, however you get found out, and you confess, you don't even get the 3 days to repent. You're to be killed right away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But here. Go ahead, sorry.
You see that? You see, that's the thing. Who cares what the stupid government says? This really isn't a government thing. It's the community. Mm-hmm. It's usually the community or the family or the relatives that carry this out. So the government can say whatever the hell they want. It doesn't mean crap, especially when it's coming from the Muslim Brotherhood.
Now, here's another thing. So notice, though, Kenny's position at first, okay, was that you had to commit, apostasy wasn't enough. You had to commit an overt act of actual treason, right? Okay? And then he read from Jonathan A.C. Brown that actually argued against his position. And even through various emails, he was saying, no, this backs up my position, blah, 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 whatever. Well, now notice in the email that he sent us yesterday, okay, he actually takes our position, or my position, the scholar's position, that it is not the act of apostasy and something else like treason. Actually, if you commit treason, you don't have to be an apostate, right? Okay? You should just be killed just for the act of treason. No, what is the actual act of treason is you becoming an apostate publicly, right? That's it. Full stop. There's nothing else added to that. It is just the act of becoming an apostate. That is the treasonous act. Yeah, that is the thing you are killed for unless you repent.
And I would say what's so interesting to me. Oh, I'm sorry. It's fine. I can read.
No. Go ahead.
So to me, what's interesting is even this idea: does Islam even promote nationalism? So it's interesting, this equation of nationalism to Islam. There are authors like Wail bin Halak, who is a Palestinian Christian author, who argues that Islam cannot be a nationalistic state. He wrote a book called The Impossible State. So his argument is Islam cannot be nationalist. So it's an interesting argument. And it was interesting, too, because when I was on his show, he talked about the rules of engagement. They said this is kind of fascinating to me. So if the rules of engagement are 100% consistent across the board, I'm curious then why do Muslims use machine guns, bombs? They use these types of weapons in warfare because the Islamic warfare is pretty distinct. It says you can't poison wells, you can't kill older people, you can't do all this stuff, right? These are what the rules are supposed to be. So how can you use a bomb and blow yourself up and use a gun? So it's like an interesting thing because where do these types of elements come in? There's a lot of, it's hard because there's not really a consistent narrative. I think there's lots of different kinds of narratives that we're dealing with here. We're not dealing with a consistent narrative. And I think, unfortunately, with the fusion of nationalism, people do feel kind of comfortable that if you're not in the group, you're out the group. And I'm like, that is very disturbing to me. I'm extremely disturbed by this type of thing. And I do not think the apostasy law is good at all. And I think it must be banned. If any religion does it, I don't care what religion says it does that. It must be banned because it's an unethical thing. It's an unethical practice. It doesn't allow for the freedom of speech. And what it does is it silences entire communities. And I feel very sad for ex-Muslims because ex-Muslims' voices are being silenced in this conversation, and they shouldn't be. And that's why, and a lot of people get mad at ex-Muslims and say, you ex-Muslims are so bad. You're so horrible. You're so evil. You're getting paid to do this. Jews are paying you. And I'm like, you've never even met a Jew in your life. So I don't know why you're talking about Jews in Judaism. You have
well, they
no
pay
idea.
me. I get buckets of money from them every week for doing this show.
And they don't, and they probably haven't met Christians. And I'm like, how are you going to talk about Jews and Christians when you haven't even met these people and took the time to figure out what their faith is instead of reading a book and just saying, oh, look at this thing in the Tanakh and look at this thing in the Evangelion. It's so funny. Let's make fun of it. I'm like, why don't you actually go and do, because you ask for Christians and others to come look at the text and be fair and use scholars and read these books and be fair to the sources, right? I mean, I'm not sure if all these people are reading the sources in general. And I think the problem is, you know, yes.
Can I respond to Issa?
Hey, I just want to say
actually, let me just say something. Let me just say something really quick. Let me just say something real quick. But Issa, like you said, they never met a Jew because they're accusing Jews, you know, that everybody's getting paid by the Jews. Don't they know that Jews are cheap? They don't pay. I'm just saying. Go ahead.
You are terrible.
Okay, so
they
pay me well. Okay. I'm just gonna say. Yeah. Go ahead, George.
Yes. Yeah, couple things.
George, hold on, George. Before you go on, did the Jews pay you?
That's a secret. I hear they're checking the mail, but you know, I haven't gotten it yet. Yeah. So, couple points. Issa is talking about the apostasy rule that they have, but I think what we need to recognize, to my mind, and you can correct me if you want, Islam was founded for two purposes. One, to attack the Judeo-Christian religion. Why do I say this? Judeo-Christianity existed before Islam. And remember, Jews and Christians were living in Arabia at the time that this ideology called Islam was formulated. It was designed specifically to attack Judeo-Christianity. We cannot get away from that. So if you notice, there are varying understandings of what Islam is, different interpretations of the Sharia law, applying this bit, applying that bit, and so on in different parts. But one thing that they seem to be very consistent with is their opposition to Christianity. That's one. Two, we must never forget, do not forget, that Islam is really a political ideology. And if I'm right that it's a political ideology, when a Muslim leaves, it's like treason to them. Because this is a political ideology about governing people. And if somebody leaves it, it's as if they're fighting against the government. They're in opposition to this political ideology. We must never forget that Islam is a political ideology. So it's politics, and it's founded against Christianity. Now, I have a quick question before I shut up. We see the Taliban taking over Afghanistan, and it's really disappointing to me and frightening and surprising how quickly it's happening. But I think we need to recognize that there is a societal acceptance of this radical view held by this group. Otherwise, if it was just a handful of guys, they could not take the country over so quickly. But my question is this before I shut up. What I see them with this flag. I don't read Arabic, but what is their flag saying? Their flag that they keep waving around the place. What is it saying in Arabic?
Who's that? The Taliban? Is that
the Taliban? The Taliban, okay. Yes.
What is it saying? Isn't that the Shahada? I don't know.
Can you show me? Can you show me the flag? I'll read it.
Okay, I'm going to find it.
Let me go ahead and Google search it. I'm going to go to Google Images. Yeah. Taliban. Now, how do you spell that? Taliban.
Hey, Eric.
I got it. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say that Jews do pay me because I heard that Grubhub is owned by Jews.
Oh, really? That's funny.
I want to say one last thing.
And Nim has actually said that my check was never put in the mail. A person of an ethnic group I reset Jews being given the cheap title. This is our title. Go ahead, Isa. I'm sorry.
I wanted to say one thing. So trying to make a defense for, just so we can have the complete holistic view, I think it's important on the conversation in this channel. I think the other opposition is like what Muhammad Hijab said with his debate to Apostate Prophet, and I think Imam Bomer would agree with this, and certain Muslims take this position, is a position that it doesn't have to be death. There is some place that there's an argument that people will be banned from the country. They can be displaced from the country. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying there is that type of argument as well. So some scholars argue that. And my response to that would be like, well, that's a very kind of elite ivory tower that know this. Most people don't know that information if that, with that particular specific, if you take that position. So that would be a counter argument that people would say, well, you can be taken out of the country. And I'm like, I wonder how that would look like, though. Like, what country would take that? How would that even be instituted if someone were to practice that, if you know what I mean?
All right. Okay. Here is the Taliban flag. What does that say?
It's for Shahada.
Is that the Shahada?
Muhammad is his messenger.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Other than it's white with a black background, how is that different from the ISIS flag?
Good question.
I think ISIS is just Muhammad Rasulullah. Muhammad is the prophet of Allah, messenger of Allah.
Okay.
So it's not the full Shahada?
The second part, the last part.
So that means our westernized Muslims who are trying to candy coat this ideology, basically trying to put lipstick on a pig, as Dr. Rad will tell you. I don't know if Eric or you guys understand this, but Dr. Rad knows that if you put lipstick on a pig and put it in high heels, it doesn't become a supermodel. It's still a pig.
What?
So,
Are you
Hey, don't talk about my ex-wife that way. I'm just I tried, man. I tried.
The point is, no matter how they sugarcoat it, no matter how the people like Bomer try to make Islam sound like some nice religion, it is an aggressive political fascist ideology that is bent on world domination. Right? We've had to fight fascism. We've had to fight communism. Now the threat for the world is Islamism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this UA I think makes a good point here, because trying to draw a correlation, it's fair. Okay, you're trying to draw a correlation between ISIS and the Taliban. You can say that the Nazi flag and the Hindu flag have some correlations too, but the ideology itself from which it is drawn is the same. The sources from which it is drawn, I think, is the same. Who's talking there? Isa, because I got like a list of things that I want to say here, but go ahead, guys.
I wanted to say a quick response to that flag. They actually took it. It's the swastika. The swastika is an Indian symbol. So what Hitler believed in is he believed in Aryan supremacy. So he believed that the Indians and the Iranians were these Aryans. So he believed in the occult. So he took these symbols that he thought were occultic symbols and used them because he believed they had spiritual power. That's why he took that symbol.
So Issa, how is what you just said about Aryan supremacy under Nazi fascism different from fascism in Islam, which teaches them that Muslims are superior to everyone else? There's no such thing as equality in Islam. If you're not a Muslim, you are a dhimmi. Right?
They are the best of creatures. The best of creatures.
And the other point that I want to make is if their flag is the same as the ISIS flag or the pronouncement about Muhammad as the prophet of Allah, then the westernized Muslims who try to candy coat this ideology cannot be telling us that these people are not Muslims. They are Muslims. The Taliban are Muslims, and they are reading from the text. It's just that you don't want to tell us the things that they read and believe in. You want to sugarcoat those things. So, the Taliban are Muslims. They are
actually
Muslims.
let me add to this, and then Eric, I think because you had a bunch of stuff that you wanted to cover, sorry to take over your show. Sorry to mind your show.
It's all right, guys.
But But no, real quick on that, okay? Well, that's my point to Kenny. That's why I was engaging him on his show, okay? Because I was asking him questions specifically. Okay, he actually says he would participate in stoning adulterers to death. Now remember, he says he's on good terms with his ex-wife who cheated on him, so he says, right? Okay, I mean, I wonder how she'd feel about that. The dude would stone me to death if I was living in we were living in an Islamic country. Okay. Secondly, he says that homosexuals should be killed under Islamic laws. Okay. And now he's finally come around. Okay, to apostates should be killed. Taking away his pre-qualifier that they have to commit an overt act of treason. Okay. So again, in these aspects, Kenny, how are you any different than ISIS or the Taliban? And guess what, Kenny? Don't you want Sharia law? Don't you want to live under Islamic perfect law?
Well,
you're going to have that in Afghanistan. Yeah, you're going to have that. You're going to have that right now in Afghanistan. Okay? In the coming weeks and months. Okay? And as long as they don't do any terrorist acts outside of Afghanistan, as long as they only kill their own people and don't kill Americans or British or whatever and allow us to get out with our tail between our legs, thanks, Joe Biden. Okay? Then there's going to be no retaliation from us. Okay, because the Afghan army has totally collapsed. They're gone. The government has left. Okay, they've given up. So therefore, the Taliban have actually won. They are supreme in Afghanistan. So seriously, why don't you migrate there? Why don't all Muslims migrate there? If you want to live under Sharia law and you think that's the best law for you, and America sucks, and America's racist, and America is all this, and every horrible thing that has ever happened in the world, even before America began, is because of America, then get the crap out, man. Go to Afghanistan and live under your perfect, beautiful Sharia law and eat dust and ants and goat and whatever.
Yeah, but the reason why, you asked a very good question, Dr. Rad. But the reason why they won't go there is because, as I said, their ideology is political, and they are bent on destroying liberal democracy as we know it, and they are bent on attacking Christianity. Those are their objectives. Make no mistake about it. That is the foundation, belief, and purpose of Islam.
Oh, Nim Grace just posted in chat. Kenny goes to Afghanistan.
Because the UN is going to meet tomorrow about this. So don't think that there's no hope whatsoever. The UN is going to meet tomorrow to talk about it. So everything's going to
Yeah. Oh, UN's going to be, yeah, right. That's worse than Joe Biden. Okay, whatever, dude. Yep, Afghan is done. Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever.
Anyway. All right. So I got a couple things that I want to chime in here with. Number one, when I first was speaking earlier in the show, I was trying to differentiate between blasphemy and apostasy because the comment was made last week about you can't blaspheme a human being, but yet we find blasphemy, the application of blasphemy laws being applied in these Islamic controlled countries where if you start using his 6 criteria here, they kill people for criticizing Muhammad. And we also see it here in the West. So please don't try to come up on here and say you can't blaspheme Muhammad. It says it right there in the Reliance of the Traveler, where it says you can't revile Allah or his prophet. I know. Let's parse words here. Revile, blaspheme. They're 2 different things. No, they're not. No, they're not. Number 2. He cites 4 sources here. This is a logical fallacy where you appeal to authority. These guys know Muhammad Salah, Bilal Phillips, Shabir Ali, John Brown. They know more than we do about Islamic law. And in the aggregate, I would agree with that. They probably do know much more, exponentially more than what I would know about Islamic law. But what I do know is what I can read. And what I do know is what their law books say. And what I do know is what I see on TV. And what I do know is what the personal experiences have been of people who have been on this show when it comes to apostasy and how they're treated and how their countrymen are treated. So to try to say, to appeal to this authority, to look at these 4 scholars and say, and listen to what they say, what in the Hades do you think they're going to say? Do you think for a second these 4 guys would come out and say, oh, well, if you apostatize from Islam, you're going to be killed for it? Do you think for a second, living in a Western country, that they would say that? You know what that would do to their dawah? Oh, my goodness. So they're obviously going to sit there and try to dress this thing up to where, well, in order to get there, in order to kill somebody for leaving their religion, you have to follow all of these steps. Forgetting the fact that you're going to come back to that point in order to kill somebody for leaving their religion. And so they want you to get lost in all of these facts. This is called obfuscation, and it is dishonest. What does he say here? I've mentioned, let's see, and call the scholars I have mentioned liars. I'm not calling them liars. And the bottom line of all of these guys is you can be killed for leaving Islam. Whether or not they say that you got to go through all these steps or not is irrelevant. Because in the other countries where this thing is applied, ask John Isaac, ask Adam Seeger, ask Steve Hussein here. Do people get killed for reviling Muhammad, blaspheming Muhammad? You're doggone right they do. Do they get killed for leaving Islam? You're doggone right they do. So to sit there and say, what is it? When you attempt to explain this topic, you have no true understanding. I can read a book, dude. And so can everybody on this panel. We can sit there and look at the news of what happens to apostates in these countries. It doesn't take a genius. Just because you got a bunch of clapping seals and sycophants there on your show that will, to accept everything little thing that you say does not mean that you're right. And to sit there and try to say, well, I studied under, I don't even know who he said he studied under at Michigan University, and we used to have deep discussions about this. Well, I'm sure you did. Yippee-ki-yay. You're an undergraduate student. Undergraduate students, an undergraduate student, in order to demonstrate, to prove a point where the consensus goes against it, would cite somebody like, I don't know, Karen Armstrong as an authoritative scholar. That's what an undergrad student. Once you get into graduate studies, big man, you have to actually go to either primary source, which I'm going to go to here in just a second, or you have to go to theological journals where papers are peer reviewed, where other people actually get to tear them apart. Not somebody that gets to prove.
Wait, Eric.
Hey, everything in my book. I'm sorry. I'm going.
Eric. Eric.
Down. Go ahead.
Eric, are you saying that me providing primary sources, that means I'm a graduate student? Is that what you're saying? Just wondering.
Well, that's what graduate students do.
Well,
they're supposed to
there
do anyway.
we go.
I don't know if they do that.
There we go.
But I mean, you had to provide primary source, or you had to use peer-reviewed journal articles if you're going to make an assertion. You just can't.
Well, the reason why I point that out is because I asked him. I said, "Dude, can you provide me any primary sources, like I've done to you, that argues against these primary sources?" And then he goes to Dr. Brown, which I was fine with, okay, because Dr. Brown agrees with my position, okay. And I actually, Kenny, this is the funny thing. You said, are you familiar with Dr. Brown, Dr. A.C. Brown, Jonathan A.C. Brown? I'm like, yeah, I'm on his mailing list. I get all of his peer-reviewed journals from academia.edu. Okay, my whole inbox is full of them. Okay, all right. So yes, I have read Jonathan A.C. Brown, and he agrees with me because I agree with him. That's the funny thing. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go on with your rant.
No, I wanted to go on. Do one. Where did it go? In one. When he was talking about all the steps in apostasy, how we don't know what we're talking about as far as apostasy is concerned, he and I don't know if he did this intentionally. Well, he probably didn't do it intentionally, but I'm certain he did it unintentionally. You'll never guess who he cited. He cited a guy by the name of the Yusuf al-Qaradawi. Now, Yusuf al-Qaradawi is the head of the Muslim Brotherhood. He is probably one of your top Sunni scholars in the world. He's from Al-Azhar University, if I'm not mistaken. That's where he gave his employ. But anyway, am I correct on that, John?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I was right on that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Okay. So when he's talking about apostasy in Islam, he cites Yusuf al-Qaradawi. Now, Yusuf al-Qaradawi. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can get.
It's Yusuf al-Qaradawi. Yeah.
Hold on. Hold on. No. Okay. I don't want to play that yet. All right. So I got a clip here of what Yusuf al-Qaradawi had to say about apostasy and Islam. Let me see if I can get this to come up on the screen. Okay, here we go.
لو تركوا الردة ما كان هناك إسلام. كان انتهى الإسلام.
Whoa, hold on. What did you just say, Yusuf? Hold on, let's go back to that.
يتركوا الردة لو تركوا الردة ما كان هناك إسلام.
Oh, if they got rid of the punishment for, did you guys read that? Was that a correct translation? If they got rid of the punishment for Islam or for apostasy, Islam wouldn't exist today?
Yes, true translation.
Oh,
it's true translation.
So, say that again, John.
Yeah, if they didn't apply Ridda or apostasy law, there will be no Islam.
Wow. Yusuf al-Qaradawi. Well, thanks for citing that. Let me finish playing the.
Yusuf al-Qaradawi is the president of all Sunni Muslim scholars in the world. The president, okay. Not like a regular Imam. No, the president.
Okay, so let me finish playing the clip. It's only a minute long, so hold on. Let me go back to this. I'm going to mute myself, guys. Here we go.
كان انتهى الإسلام منذ وفاة الرسول عليه الصلاة والسلام، فالوقوف أمام الردة هو الذي أبقى الإسلام. وفي آية المائدة إنما جزاء الذين يحاربون الله ورسوله ويسعون في الأرض أن يقتلوا أو يصلبوا، جاء عن أبي قلابة وغيره من التابعين إن.
Whoa. You mean that the people that he's speaking about that are causing corruption in the lands are the apostates, and those are the ones that will be crucified, that have their hands and okay, here comes a little more. Hold on, a little more. Hold on, we'll come back to it.
هذه جاءت في المرتدين، وجاءت أحاديث كثيرة، مش حديث واحد ولا اثنين ولا ثلاثة، أحاديث كثيرة عن عدد من الصحابة يعني في أن يقتل المرتد.
That's all we need to see. So he's talking about going to primary source. Primary source would be, according to Muslims, the Quran and the Hadith. So guess what? I got 1, 2, 3. Hold on, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different ahadith that call for the death of apostates. And it gets worse. You go to the Sirah, the biography. Oh my gosh, I got like 6 pages here highlighted of statements about killing apostates.
Hey, Eric? Hey, Eric?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say that, with this particular interview, because I watch it 100 times, what he does that is so wicked, is so evil, is that he takes the most vile verse in the Quran, 533, which is right after Obama's favorite verse, which is 532,
Right.
If they, if anybody kills somebody, he kills the whole world,
No, Steve, hey, don't misquote it now.
Sorry, bro.
As we have prescribed for the Jews.
For the Jews.
Anybody right, yeah. Okay, but go ahead.
But the problem that I have with this is that he has now applied 533 specifically to apostates. It doesn't specifically say that there, but all of a sudden, if you leave Islam, that means you're causing corruption in the land, this stupid crime that nobody knows what it is. But he, Qaradawi, one of the most influential Sunnis in the planet, makes that about apostate. That means you're supposed to cut our hands and feet off and crucify us. Idiot.
That's going to leave a mark. Yeah, we wouldn't want you.
Here.
And this is the thing, when I see your thing there, Chris. We're going to get to it in just a second, brother. I promise you.
Okay.
And you're exactly right. So when you accuse somebody of committing corruption in the land, what does that tell you? Tell your sycophants what they can do to that person? Exactly. So when Kenny accused me of causing corruption, he says, well, I'm not going to hurt you personally. Well, that's fine. But what happens when your sycophants do? And we go back to that video where you said that I'm causing corruption in the land. Good luck with that.
And don't forget, Marshall's now coming with armed Muslims. Remember that.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, that's the thing. Okay, so Friday night. I'm gonna just take us to Friday night. I'm gonna blame Rad because he forwards me this email where that Kenny had sent him, and in this email he says we're still coming after Eric and his job that he anyway, he says he's still going to come after me. All right. And I'm like, dude, you need to get a life. You're either going to do it or you're not. You've been talking about 9 months, and let's either get on with it. The very next morning, Saturday morning, I wake up. I always get up, and I read an email. I got an email from Hatun Tosh. Now, how can your day not get any better than get an email from Hatun? And all it was is just because, just right after her little incident, I said her, a couple words of encouragement and thanking her for her courage. And so, and she finally gets around to replying me to this morning. It's been 2 weeks, but I'll take what I can get. And I'm like, And then when I check my email the next time, Marshall, I'm coming. I'm at the airport. Can you guess what? This guy is a clown. He says he's met with the school director numerous times, and he's actually giving her dawah. And then I make a couple phone calls, and it's not true. And you know what he says? He says, well, we're coming Thursday. Just glosses over the whole thing. So the bottom line is that your day can go from, way up here to right down here just as soon as you have any action with that scumbag. All right, Chris. Oh, and that's what he's suing me for also, by the way. $50,000. He was willing to settle out of court for $25,000, but not a penny less for calling him I think it's for calling him a scumbag. I'm not exactly sure what the lawsuit's about, but good luck with that. You guys have read the email. I'm serious. Okay, Chris, my brother, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Yeah, can you go ahead and put my video that I have in the thing up?
Yes, sir. There you go.
Because Kenny quoted Bilal Phillips, correct?
Right. Yep.
Excellent.
Oh yeah, it's right here. Hold on. Let me switch over to mine. Let's see here. Bilal Phillips, right here. Bilal Phillips. Okay. Yep. You're absolutely right.
All right. We'll switch back over to mine.
All right. Let's do that. What a swing. There you go.
MashaAllah, may Allah bless him. Watch his videos, inshallah.
The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Whoops, I got myself muted. Before I continue, this is Bilal Phillips. Everybody, just so you know, this is Bilal Phillips. I'll play it now.
Sallam has allowed in Islam, if a person has a slave, it is permissible for that person who owns a slave to establish the Hajj on his slave. That's permissible. And it happened during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on occasions. So the permissibility of it is restricted. It is constricted. It is tight. He says sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wa sallam in an authentic hadith that's been collected by Imam al-Bukhari and Muslim. إذا زنت أمة أحدكم فتبين زناها فليجلدها ولا يثرب وإن زنت ثانية فتبين زناها فليجلدها ولا يثرب ثم إن زنت ثالثا فليبيعها ولو بحبل شعر. If one of your slave girls has committed zina and her zina is apparent and proven, then flog her. And if she does it a second time, then flog her. And if she does it a third time, then sell her, even for the meager price of a piece of rope. So he allowed that to happen. Al-Imam al-Bukhari in his book, Al-Adab al-Mufrad, he brought the circumstance in which the blind companion who was in love with his jariyah, he wasn't married to her, but she was his jariyah, and he loved her because of the benefit that he received from her. But she used to curse Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the man would warn her, let us stop saying that. And the lady would continue to curse Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He knocked her down on the ground, got on top of her, and split her head open with an axe and killed her. They took the situation to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and told him the story. When he heard what she was doing, making shatam and sub of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is covered. Rasulullah said, "Ala inna damaha hadar." Verily, her blood is halal. Her blood is free to flow.
Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!
Go ahead and take it off the screen. I'll just lower it. So as we have
let's get into the moment
from Bilal Phillips, the one that Kenny is quoting, his prophet allowed. No, I just want to get this from Steve. What is Jariya? What is that?
Jariya is like your servant or like a maid. You know, someone who does what you want. You know.
So of course that would make one believe that Muhammad allowed sex with female captives.
Absolutely. Chapter 4, verse 24. And also he didn't get into the verse where it says, don't beat your wife like you beat your slave, but he was kind of getting near there.
Yeah. And also Bilal Phillips just confirmed that Muhammad said that her blood was halal. Her blood is free to flow. He approved the killing of this slave girl only because she was saying things bad about his prophet.
Okay, so to blaspheme Muhammad is a crime punishable by death.
Well, hey, that's only according to Bilal Phillip, which to Kenny is an authority because he told you to look up Bilal Phillips. So we looked him up, and this must be what Kenny agrees with because this is what Bilal says.
Oh, okay. Well, again,
where's Connie? Where's Connie? I was expecting Islam is murder, but sorry to say it for her. But go ahead.
Okay, we got somebody in chat that says that wasn't Bilal Phillips. Who was that supposed to be? That he posted it earlier. He was Sheikh Abu Usama Al-Fadi, a Saudi-educated Salafi from Green Lane Mosque in Birmingham. So, where did you get that straight from Ali Dawa's video, Chris?
Yeah, and it's not just Ali Dawa's video. Other people have commented on it, and I've even spoke to other Muslims, played that video for them, and yes, that is Bilal Phillips. Anybody can go look up Bilal Phillips, listen to his video, and look at the picture. That is who that is.
Okay.
Hey, Eric, you can just pull up Kenny's video, Bilal Phillips, see if it's the same dude. I mean, you know what I mean?
All right. Well, let me look here. Let me go to that.
Well, let's make sure because we want to be accurate. We want to be accurate in citing our sources.
Okay, so because I can only do 5 things at a time here. Let me see here. I got to check for viruses. You never know what you're going to get. Wheel of Death. Contemporary something is issues. Contemporary issues. All right. Let's fast forward it so we get a human being on here.
Wait, this is a YouTube video, right?
Yeah, it's a YouTube video. So
okay, right, sure. Okay.
Hold on, I'm not sure. I got to add it to the stream. There we go. So the clarity on it sucks.
Yep, that's him.
All right. Yep. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I just saw the objection there in the chat.
Well,
no.
Well, if it's not Kenny thinks that it's him. So yeah, whatever.
Okay.
I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question. If these people who hold these views, this is what they feel deep down, aren't they violating some law by holding a view to say homosexuals should be stoned to death, or adulterous women should be stoned to death? Aren't they violating some law in a Western democracy?
Of course they are. I mean, this is the whole thing. He comes onto his show saying, "Look, guys, okay, Steve, you're really throwing me off, making me hungry with that watermelon, dude. That's good." But he comes onto his show and he starts talking about, well, Sharia is already here in the United States. You don't need to worry about Sharia. It's already here. But then when you start looking at crap like this, you start looking at the apostasy clauses and say, I can sit here and I can read from Sahih Bukhari. I can read from Sahih Muslim. I can read commentary from, or I can read from Ibn Abbas, where it's narrated from Ibn Abbas, a contemporary of Muhammad. When I can read from the seer, when I can read from the biography of Muhammad, when I could see all these things. No. All that stuff that you're reading, that you need to listen to us scholars. Our scholars are trying to make Islam more palatable here in the West. That's who you need to pay attention to. All the while, when you look at 14 centuries of history, where these guys have applied these apostasy laws and killed people, and then get your undies all in a bunch where we say, well, we're going to apply not only the apostasy laws, if Sharia is going to come to fruition here, that's also going to include that little you cannot blaspheme or you cannot revile Allah and you can't revile his messenger. Well, we do that quite often here on the Cross and the Crescent discussion group, where we start talking about what the original sources of Islam say what Muhammad did. So that, I guess, that would be considered revilement. That would fall under the blasphemy clause, and that would fall under the apostasy clause. Therefore, we would be killed under the Sharia. And he says, don't worry about it. Well, buddy, I'm going to worry about it. You can call me whatever name you want to, Islamophobe, hater, hate preacher, whatever the heck you want. I could care less. But the fact is that you could, if you really want to be more accurate, you can call me a Sharia phobe. How's that? Go ahead, Steve.
I was just in Kansas City a few days ago with a friend of mine who used to be a terrorist, but he's a Christian now. But
good people, yeah.
He used to be Yasser Arafat's sniper, and he got born
I saw the live feeds that you did with him. Go ahead.
But you know what? Every time I listen to a video from one of the Christian apologists who deal with Islam, every single time this guy comes on and says, Alhamdulillah, my brothers, we just raised enough money to start building the biggest Islamic center in the United States. And there's one in New York, where they're building, and it's a celebration because they got the Saudi money in America. But you know what? They're also building the largest Islamic center in the world in Kansas City. So,
no kidding. Kansas City.
Just look forward to good things.
I'm going to tell you something funny. The other night, my wife, she's a Yankees fan, and there's no cure for being a Yankees fan. It's kind of like being a Muslim. You're just so spiritually blinded that you want to follow. I know, Steve. I hate it too. But they have up the road here. Let me just put it this way. In Dyersville, which is probably about a 40-minute drive from here, the Yankees came to play the White Sox, and it was at the Field of Dreams. Have you guys ever seen that movie, Field of Dreams? Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner.
And the White Sox whooped their ass. I'm just saying, White Sox stomped on us. That's how we do it in Chicago.
And that's cool. I could care less. But you remember that very famous line in the movie where Kevin Costner's having that vision or whatever. It says, build it and they will come. So when you have people in Kansas City building these huge mosques, or people in New York building these huge mosques, build it and they will come. This is what this is why they're doing it. And I don't know if they've come to Iowa to get those visions in order to give them the motivation to build these mosques. They might, because there's something special about Dyersville, and it's let me just say, it's a very Catholic town. They have an absolutely, I'm getting off on a tangent here, but they have this absolutely beautiful basilica there, and the only school in town is a Catholic school. Dyersville Beckman's a Catholic school. But anyway, build it and they will come. So when you go to Kansas City, that's what they're doing. Build it and they will come.
And it's a political statement. It's a political statement.
Exactly.
It's an embassy. Right.
Yeah, we're asserting our dominance here. We're going to build a mosque with our minarets that are higher than your highest belfries in your churches, or the spires of your churches. That's exactly what you're saying. It's a political statement, it's a statement of dominance, and this is what Islam teaches.
Hey, Eric. Maybe Marshall will make the Eric Smith Mosque in your honor because they're coming to Cedar Rapids. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They just might. They have to go out on. I don't know. They could probably build it out in Blair's Ferry. It's kind of wide open in some spots out there. I don't know where they would get land around. I mean, it's just. Anyway, okay, so
I have a question, Eric. Can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay. We spoke today about apostasy law against Muhammad. Muslims all the time say that Jesus is a Muslim because they are Muslims, they love Jesus. And Allah in Quran says that he doesn't differentiate between Jesus and Muhammad, Moses. All of them are messengers of Allah. Mm-hmm. Then why can't we see apostasy law against Jesus? Why?
Against Jesus. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Why there is no single Muslim made a condemnation when Jesus was called as a gay last year in the movie in Brazil, or in the Da Vinci Code or something like that? We didn't hear anything. Jesus like silent. Just when anything, just simple word about Muhammad, they do a lot of demonstration. Illa Rasulullah, illa Rasulullah, and nothing else. I need an answer from Muslims.
Yeah, well, you're never going to get one, because then that would require them to be consistent and not be such hypocrites, and figure the odds of that happening. And this is another thing. We start talking about, okay, all these names that were called, Islamophobe. Has anybody ever heard of a Christophobe? Somebody that's afraid of Christianity? Christianity is the most maligned faith on the planet. How about a Hindophobe? That's 1 point whatever billion people are Hindi on the Indian subcontinent. Do we hear them complaining about people being Hindiphobes? How about Buddhaphobes, or the Buddhists, or well, I guess you have anti-Semitism for Judaism, but I mean, that's only about 10 million people that are on the planet, maybe 20. I'm not exactly sure what the last count was of Jews were, but that's the only thing that can be closely equated with that. So when you got a religion that has 1.6 billion people, and they're all butthurt about people criticizing Muhammad or people criticizing the Quran, this is 2021. This is what we do here. We have the free flow of ideas and information. People can basically say what they want, and if you get upset with it, then defend your Quran, defend your prophet, defend a man who was 54 who had sex with a prepubescent 9-year-old girl. Go ahead and try to make that defense in a court of public opinion. I like to see that happen. And we know it's never going to happen. And when John says, okay, well, why don't they make laws against criticizing Jesus? Eric, what about criticizing Moses? What about criticizing King David? Go ahead.
Eric, it's like, it reminds me of like when you watch CNN, that the racism is like they have made this crime, and it's a crime that only white Christian men can commit. Nobody else can commit this. Only white Christian men can commit this crime of racism. Nobody else can commit it. And so, and it's the exact same thing, that this is a crime, but it's in reverse, that only when you speak about Islam is it an issue of phobia, of some kind of mental deficiency. You got this, subconscious fear of, Islam. That's why phobia is a fear, And so this is something that can only apply when you're talking about Islam. If you're talking about Christianity, it doesn't work. So anyway.
Sure, right. It's an unfounded fear, or an unjustified fear is what it's supposed to be. Well, when people are getting their heads cut off for committing apostasy, or they're being killed, or they're being ostracized from their family, or they're being imprisoned for criticizing Muhammad, I wouldn't say it's a phobia.
Well, you're not seeing it.
Yeah, this is true. Okay, I wanted to go through some statistics here, since we're talking about the Sharia and its application. A couple years ago, there was some polling that was done across the globe about the Sharia and its application, and who actually wanted it and who didn't want it. So here we have, this is Pew Research, and this says the percentage of Muslims who favor making Sharia the official law of their country. Now, if you look at, this is Muslims in those countries, 42% of the Muslims in Russia, which is kind of scary. You get over here to Malaysia, which is supposed to be a fairly, what do they call it, a liberal country or whatever. That's kind of scary. 72% of people in Indonesia, for Pete's sake, folk, Indonesia, the most populous country on earth. But look at Afghanistan. Now, I'm trying to think who that 1%er is. I wonder if they're alive today for saying that. It's hard to say. They're probably some kafir that helped the United States military. Iraq, 91%. Niger, Djibouti, Congo, Nigeria, 71%. Ethiopia, 65%. So you start looking across the globe. The majority of your countries where there is a good percentage of people that are Muslim in that country want the Sharia in their country. Okay. So let's go here. Support for Sharia. Percentage of Muslims who favor making Sharia the official law in their country. Here's another one. What is this? Multiple interpretations of Sharia. Percentage of Muslims say Sharia has multiple interpretations, single interpretations. So if you look at those Muslims in Russia, you notice that there's only one interpretation to the Sharia, not multiple interpretations. If you go to Afghanistan, well, there you instead of 99%, I guess you got a 67%. 2/3 of them say that. Lebanon, oh, the Palestinian territories. Oh my goodness, 51%. Did they have the Palestinian territories on here? I wanted to see that if that was on here. Did they? Yeah, 89% of the people in the Palestinian territories want to see Sharia become the law of the land. Who just bounced in here? Sorry. Let's see here. Morocco, only 22% of people in Morocco. Tunisia, Palestinian territory. Only half the people think that there's one interpretation of the Sharia. Muslims who pray more frequently are more likely to favor Sharia as a law of the land. So pray several times a day, 65% want the law of the land, 28%. Or they only 28% of them pray less, want it is a law of the land. Palestinian territory, look at that. 95% who prays several times a day want Islamic law as the law of the land. Wow. Indonesia, oh my goodness, look at Indonesia, 74%. That is the most, again, folks, that's the most populous Islamic country on the planet. 74% of them. Let's see, Indonesia got 300 million Muslims, so what would 74%? About 225 million of them want, what is that? Want Islamic law as the law of the land. That is scary. Am I reading this wrong? I'm not reading it wrong. Let's go over to the next one here. Should Sharia apply to both Muslims and non-Muslims? Are you ready for this one? So the Sharia should not only apply to Muslims in that land, but it also should apply to this kafir here. So let's look at Indonesia. 50%, oh my goodness, 50% of them think that the Sharia should also apply to non-Muslims. So the most populous Islamic country in the world thinks, half of them think that the Sharia should not only apply to Muslims, but it should also apply to non-Muslims. That is scary. Egypt, Palestinian territory. Oh, only 44%. Well, that's good news. I kind of like to see that.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Isa.
Do these people know what Sharia is? Like, have they actually see, this is the question. It's like, it's hard because if you don't read text and you don't study and you don't learn, and then you have religious officials who are running the country and stuff like that. And a lot of people could be illiterate and stuff like that. Do these people who say they believe in Sharia, I'm just curious because I don't know, like, it's a variable. Do they think that these people might think, oh, Sharia just means Muslim law, and I think Muslim law is good because I'm Muslim? But or do you think it could be, I don't know, like, that's a question I would be curious about. Like, if they were actually pushed, what is Sharia? What does that mean to you? Do you believe in these certain kind of laws that exist? Do you think, homosexual people should be put to death?
Well, that's the point right there.
Or people who do public good acts, I should say.
Yeah. Okay, so if you have people who are essentially ignorant of what the Sharia is, they are subjected to being told what the Sharia means. And so therefore, they have to go along with what the consensus of the people believe. And so if the consensus of the people believe that homosexuals should be thrown off of tall buildings, I don't know, women who are adulterers should be stoned to death, that's problematic. And I understand exactly what you're saying. A lot of these people could be illiterate and not know. Well, where do they go for their sources then? Well, they're going to go they're going to go straight to their imams and be told what to think. Let me go back to this, but that's a good point. Egypt. What was this one? Okay, should apply. Egypt. John, what is this? 74% of your countrymen think that the Sharia should apply to tourists.
Yes. As imams in the mosque say that you should apply Sharia of Allah, or you are not a Muslim.
So if I went to Egypt, let's say I go to the pyramids and I make the comment while I'm at the pyramids. Look at what the people of the, what's it called? Not the Rashidun, the period of ignorance, pre-Islamic ignorance. What's that period? Okay. Look at the people of Jahiliyyah produced that the Muslims were unable to produce. Would I get in trouble for saying something like that?
Yeah, that's a big problem. In the street, they will not deliver you to the police. They will street.
Yeah, the majority of the people there would want that applied to me. So I'm going to have to rethink that. Me and the Queen are going to have to rethink about, going there. We might have to go like during a time of year where we would just blend in.
You can go, but avoid speaking in religion. There are some people I know. There are some people go to Egypt and speak in religion, and it passes without any problem. But if problem happen, it will be a big problem.
Well, I'm just, I just don't think that I would do very well in jail. I don't know. I just don't think that I would fare too well, even if it would have been, for religious persecution. I don't think I'm not as tough as I used to be. Okay, so let's go back to this. Steve, what do you got here? You got something that you want to share with us? Is that what's up here?
If you really want to know what Sharia law is, the best person to ask is Linda Sarsour. She was one of the leader of the Women's March, and so she really, she makes it clear, for people who don't understand, who don't read, she really does explain.
All right, go ahead and play it. It's on the screen.
Okay, let me go ahead.
At least with a number of people, what is Sharia law, and what do you think people are afraid of? Help explain that phenomenon, if you would.
So first, Sharia means law. So technically, when we say Sharia law, you're saying law, but anyway. So I actually got caught in a controversy about this, which is why I'm happy to answer this question. At the same time, 8 years ago, when the Oklahoma state legislature was trying to ban Sharia, this really monstrous thing, I was in New York City, and we were basically we had a social media campaign trying to basically explain what Sharia was. And so I got into controversy at the Women's March, because then these trolls went back 8 years ago and pulled out tweets out of context and sequence, because that's what they do. And I don't care. It's fine, because I still stand by all the tweets that I put out. But anyway, what's important to understand about Sharia is that Sharia basically is the pathway for Muslims to live out their lives, right? So it's very similar to halakha, and for those who are Jews, and similar to canon law. The interesting thing is that the Islamophobia industry in this country has been really good for the past 16 years in trying to define what Sharia is. So how do people figure out what Sharia is? They go online, they Google an image, an infographic shows up, and it tells you Sharia law is stoning women, Sharia law is all these really bad, horrible things, right? It's ahistorical, it takes things and quotes from the Quran out of context. And in fact, as someone who is a doctorate of Islamic studies, we can argue the same things that people will say about Sharia, we can say about the Bible, like that are found in the Torah or the Bible or the Quran is pretty similar. But this constant obsession with Islam is what really bothers me. So Sharia is a very simple thing. It's the ways that we get married. It's the way that we divide inheritance when people in our family pass away. It's how we arbitrate all divorces, things like that. It's about praying 5 times a day. It's about beat your wives. It's all kinds of, almost like rules and regulations of like how to be a Muslim. Not everybody follows all of them, but the point is that's what it is. And I want to just give a quick
mutilation.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to listen to any more, but that's
this is the obfuscation that we get. Go ahead.
I want to add this. One thing quick that I wanted to add was, she is right. That is all Sharia. But there are other things too, and that's the thing. Are we going to look at the holistic picture? Because it is nice. We can make a pretty nice picture of everything, but if we're having a real dialogue, we got to look at the entire picture. And these other elements are there. So Salah, family law, all of that stuff is Sharia. And I also would disagree with her definition. I put that in the chat. It means the path to the watering hole. That's what Sharia means in English. Like doesn't just mean law. It does have an etymological thing. You can look that up. But I just thought that was kind of strange that she said it's law. But I'm like, okay.
Well, it is. I mean, that's what Sharia. If I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, but Sharia means.
Hey guys.
So if you say Sharia law.
Hey guys.
Law.
Hey. Okay. Real quick here because my battery is down on the phone, so I just wanted to chime in on this real quick. Okay. So this is the catch. This is the catch-22. Like for instance, when Muslims come up to Christians and say, "You don't obey the law," most Christians say, "No, we're not under the law." Thinking the law, okay, is the purity laws, is the temple ritual laws, is the dietary laws, right? The law contains all these things, okay? So yes, we are not under the law as it was. The dietary, the purity, the temple worship, all that stuff is all done away with under Christ, okay? And I will submit honestly that if you are a Jew, you cannot practice your religion in its fulfillment since the destruction of the temple. We Christians, we can practice our religion no matter if there's a temple or not. We can practice it to its fulfillment. And the same way for Muslims, you can't practice your religion to its fullest unless you're living under an Islamic state, and then others would say unless you're living under an Islamic caliphate. But now then, so yes, the law contains all these elements. So we have to define what we mean by the law. I have no problem with Muslims practicing the part of Sharia law, the ritual purity, the prayers, that sort of thing. I'm okay with that. It's the head chopping, stoning, legal punishment, the criminal justice system of Sharia law that is the problem. Okay? So again, the Muslims will try to play the same. But I just wanted to end with this before my battery dies. I wanted to read the last paragraph of the actual conclusion, okay, of Jonathan A.C. Brown when it comes into regards to his article on Sharia law. Okay, it is under the title, The Consequences of the Apostasy Law. The last paragraph. Listen to this, people. Okay? If the Sharia, in the Sharia, the aim of punishing apostasy from Islam is to protect the communal faith and social order of the. Actually, no, let me scroll up. I'm sorry. Okay, let me see. Okay, the horrific. This is the second from the last paragraph. The horrific violence unleashed by ISIS against any who oppose it is repugnant and in and of itself from the perspective of Islamic law and human rights law alike. I would disagree on the Islamic part, but hey, in other words, you're now seeing Islam in practice, and you're like, oh crap, that's not what we meant. Anyway, but beyond this, the consequences for the very priorities that Islam seeks to protect has also proven dire. The harsh punishments enacted by ISIS, you mean the actual real Islamic punishments enacted by ISIS, on those it declares apostates, has engendered disgust, okay, globally among non-Muslims and Muslims alike. Anecdotally, I have heard of many Muslims, both in Muslim majority countries and in the West, who have experienced crisis of faith or even lost it entirely due to the violence done in the name of Islam. Things like ISIS execution of apostasy often top the list of what has led to these crises. In the Sharia, the aim of punishing apostasies from Islam is to protect the communal faith and social order of the Muslim state. If punishing apostasy is severely dividing or driving Muslims away from their religion, then this policy is undermining its own purpose. It's not clear what order under heaven maintaining harsh punishments for apostasy would be upholding in our troubled world. In other words, in 2017, after realizing the actual consequences of actually following Islam to the letter of the Sharia, okay, Muslims are like, screw, because it's, because back in the 1600s, 1400s, and whatever, there was no internet, there was no YouTube, there was no live streaming of this crap. True, you heard about it, okay, you knew about it, okay, but it wasn't in your face, the glory and the goriness of it, okay, wasn't there. But now when you have it, when you can see it, and not even be there, but see it around the world, now all of a sudden it's like, dude, do we really want this? But that's the problem. That's the problem. If you get away with it, or do away with it, then how can you have Islam? And with that, I'm done. Thank you very much for listening.
I'm sorry.
I want to add a quick thing to that type of situation, if it's okay. I'm sorry. I know I've talked a lot today, but I wanted to share one more thing. I think the extreme danger of all of this situation is that anybody can, when you have these kind of laws that are sort of abstract and they're not concrete, if a government has this power, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So probably with most people on the panel here, I agree with limited government. I think government needs to be smaller, not bigger. And the problem is a lot of governments, this is a very huge government. It's too, and I know this is political, but it's too big of a government. When you have religion and people can institute what is religiously okay, what is not religiously okay, I can deem anyone an enemy. I could call anything corruption of the land. I can deem that anything. That is extremely dangerous. That's why we have separation between church and state here in the United States. Because if you allowed for some, let's say any Christian denomination, let's say I want to control it, and let's say it's like the Quiverful movement, which is kind of insane. I don't know if you're familiar with that particular group, but they're a little bit insane. But if they have control, they can deem whatever they want to be true. We don't want that. No, we don't want people to be able to control anything that they want to say. You have to be able to say, look, no, this is your personal matter. This is between you and your Lord, your God. This is your thing. And you could go to your church, your mosque, whatever, temple. But the thing is, when you have a state that can say whatever it wants, that's extremely dangerous. I don't see how it can be okay. And that's the thing, because it's abstract. It's not, it's very, you can't pinpoint what these things mean. I could say whatever I want it to mean. And I could call anybody an enemy and I could kill them. And I'm like, no, we cannot have that. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, I got a couple things that we need to. We got like 6 minutes left, 7 minutes left in the show. Okay, Chris Claus had posted. Oh yeah, Gedalia, thank you for doing that. Hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell to get notifications for the show. There, I did it. A lot of you getting on me about not doing that. But Chris Claus had posted this in the chat before he jumped on out. He said that the video was not Bilal Phillips. And I haven't verified anything. I haven't verified it or not. And if it's not, well, then okay, that's an honest mistake. But he also goes on to say Bilal Phillips does agree with you. Apostate should die after 3 days to repent. So it's kind of a wash there. To begin. Anne, let's see, was it Anne Ryan? You posted over here in Facebook. Can you post and tell me what that video is about? Because it's 6 minutes long, and we don't have enough time to play the whole thing. What is it? Give me a, the holistic look at it. Or what give me a brief synopsis of it, if you could, please. Okay, what's this? Do an Allah Akbar on the like button. There you go. Thank you, Dr. Kufar Phobia. I wanted to put up a couple more statistics up here, because this is what we were talking about today. And this is what I was basically getting at when I talked about, oops, here we go. When I was talking about the Pew Research. It says, among Muslims who say Sharia should be the law of the land, percentage who favor the death penalty. So when you come down here to Afghanistan, 79%, Pakistan, 76%, that's over 3 out of 4, almost 80%. That's pretty stark. Egypt, look at that, John, 86%. Jordan, this is what surprises me. Jordan is supposed to be a liberal country. I don't
know. No, Jordan have a majority of Muslim Brotherhood there. Although it's kingdom and there's kings there, but still many people believe in the Muslim Brotherhood ideology.
Okay, so that explains the percentage then, because Muslim Brotherhood that's Muhammad Morsi types. But look at right here, the Palestinian territories. Those Palestinians, those people who are just defending themselves against those evil Jews, with broomsticks and whatever, and not shooting rockets indiscriminately into a sovereign country. Oh, by the way, yeah, them people. What's that percentage again? 2/3 think what? 2/3 believe that the death penalty should be applied for those people who leave Islam. Let's jump over here. Stoning as punishment for adultery. This is interesting. Tajikistan, Kazakhstan. I mean, come on. Are you kidding me? Half of the people in Tajikistan. What's wrong with you? Pakistan, almost 90% of people think that you should be stoned for committing adultery. Palestinian Authority, territory. Look at that. 84%. Egypt, 80%. Folks, that should terrify you. If you are, especially considering the fact that a lot of these people think that the Sharia should also be applying, or should be applied to non-Muslims. I got a couple more statistics here.
Can I just interject something here, Eric?
Go ahead, George.
So what's happening is that they believe, or they reason, they justify these really outlandish laws by saying, look, this is God's law, and it makes society more moral. It makes society less prone to sin. That's what they would say. Now, my response to that is, sin is I can't sin against you. I sin against God. It's a law of God that I sin against. It's between me and God. It's not between me and you. And the other thing is that when they impose these laws, what we need to see is that the people who are imposing the laws are above the laws. So
the people who are imposing the laws are what again?
Are above the laws.
Above the law, yeah, okay.
So they are free to rape using it's okay. Let me give you an example of what I mean. A woman who commits adultery against her husband must be stoned, but a man who goes and takes somebody's little daughter and claims that she's his wife and has sex with her, that's quite fine. So it just depends on who is imposing the laws. That's who determines what's right or wrong. Ultimately, it's not God. It's a political system where certain people are on top and they determine what's right and wrong. They don't abide by the same rules that are applied to the general
public. Well, it kind of sounds like a couple politicians. Hillary Clinton comes to mind there, as far as managing our nation's secrets. Let me go through a couple more of these as fast as I possibly can, and then we'll call it the day. Is it good or bad that laws do not follow Sharia closely? So this is among Muslims who say country's law do not follow the Sharia. Pakistan, 91% say that's bad. That country's law should follow the Sharia. Afghanistan, Bangladesh. Look at it. Palestinian Authority or Palestinian Territory, 83%. So this explains why you don't have any Jews in the Palestinian Territory, because they get killed all the time. Let's go over here to this one. How much political? I could care less. There was another one that I wanted to do before. Here we go. Suicide bombing justified. Turkey, 15%. Thank goodness. Afghanistan, still 4 out of 10 people in Afghanistan. 1/4 of the people in seconds. 1/4 of the people in Bangladesh. 40% in the Palestinian territories. So when we start talking about who those Hamas holes are targeting, they're targeting the Jews in Israel. And you got 4 out of 10 support that type of behavior. It's sick. And here's something else. Oh, Sharia's here. It's coming here. Look at here. Is polygamy moral?
60 seconds.
Pakistan, 37%. Palestinian Authority, almost half. There we go. Iraq, 46%. And the reason why, and there's a funny story I got about in Iraq where an interpreter wanted to know why I didn't want to have more than one wife. Why I needed to be a Muslim. But if you look at these numbers, folks, these numbers should be frightening when we start talking about not only the application of the Sharia, but the forcing of the Sharia on all these other countries and on our country. And I can tell you, for one, that's never going to happen as long as I have anything to do with it, as long as I have any voice of that. It's never going to be applied. If you want to go ahead and apply all of these laws that deal with, purification,
10 seconds.
And things that have nothing to do with me, that's fine. But when you start making applications for people who want to actually leave your religion, commit apostasy, who actually want to tell the truth about what Muhammad did, what he was, who actually want to criticize the Quran and actually question whether or not Allah is actually the God that we find in the Bible, then that's when it becomes very problematic. And so I, for one, never want to see Sharia applied in our country. And with that brilliant thought, we're going to call it a day. Does anybody got anything left? Got anything to say for the what do we call those people that are up in this nosebleed bleachers? the something section. What is that called for the
peanut gallery?
The peanut gallery. There we go. The peanut gallery. Do you sit in the peanut gallery often there, Issa? Or
I have when I go to sports games.
I can't afford tickets down along the third baseline, of course. All right. Oh, did you know that those tickets to go see the Yankees play the White Sox at the Field of Dreams, $1,000 each? Holy crap! $1,000.
That's cheap.
What are you talking about? It's cheap for you, maybe. But I'm retired. I can't afford that. A fixed income, for Pete's sake.
Allah will give you the money.
Okay, yeah, Allah wills it. All right, guys, thank you again for coming today. It's been a lot of fun today. Very informative, too. I've learned quite a few different things. And y'all in chat, I appreciate how you hold us accountable here. Thank you so much for doing that. Saw a couple new faces there. Thank you for coming. As I say every Sunday, I know there's a lot of things that you could be doing with your Sunday afternoon, like watching the Bears lose or something like that. And I appreciate you coming up and sharing out with us. God bless y'all. We'll see you Tuesday evening on Radio Free Kafirs, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. God bless.